Before the world called him the king, before the jumpsuits, the Vegas lights, the screaming fans, he was just a shy boy from Mississippi with a trembling voice and a dream louder than any doubt. This is the story of how Elvis Presley didn't just change music, he changed America. Chapter 1, Humble Beginnings in Tupelo. Elvis Aaron Presley was born on January 8, 1935, in a two-room shotgun house in Tupelo, Mississippi. His twin brother, Jesse Garon Presley, was stillborn, leaving Elvis to grow up as an only child in a struggling working-class family. His parents, Vernon and Gladys, were devoted and protective. They weren't rich, far from it. The Presleys moved often, lived paycheck to paycheck, and leaned heavily on their faith and music to get through hard times. Even as a child, Elvis stood out, not for confidence, but for his quiet nature. He loved his mother deeply, clung to her at every step. Gladys called him her baby long into his teens. And it was in the Pentecostal churches of Tupelo that Elvis first felt the power of music, gospel, rhythm, spirit, the kind of sound that made bodies move and souls shout. It was there, between the sermons and the hymns, that something began to stir in young Elvis. Chapter 2, A Guitar, a Dream, and the Move to Memphis. At age 10, Elvis got his first guitar, a birthday gift. Not exactly what he wanted. He had begged for a bicycle, but he clung to it like a lifeline. He wasn't a prodigy. Not yet, but he practiced. He played gospel songs. He studied the radio obsessively, blues, country, black gospel, white country. He soaked it all in like a sponge. When the family moved to Memphis, Tennessee in 1948, Elvis entered a new world. The city was bigger, louder, more alive, and it had something Tupelo never could give him: Beale Street. Beale was the heartbeat of black music in Memphis. Blues, R&B, soul, it pulsed from every club, street corner, and juke joint. Elvis was one of the few white kids who didn't just walk past it. He stood, listened, learned. Music was his obsession. He styled his hair like the black musicians he idolized. He wore flashy clothes, slick shoes. His classmates thought he was odd, different. He didn't fit in, but he didn't care. Elvis knew what he wanted. Chapter 3, Sun Records, the spark that lit the fire. In 1953, a shy 18-year-old Elvis walked into Sun Studio, a small recording studio in Memphis run by Sam Phillips. He paid a few dollars to record a song, just a simple acetate as a gift for his mother. He sang My Happiness. That voice, soft, trembling, unsure, but different. Sam Phillips didn't notice him immediately. But months later, when Phillips was looking for a white artist who could capture the soul of black music, someone mentioned Elvis. When Elvis returned for a session, something magic happened. During a break, Elvis picked up his guitar and started fooling around with That's All Right Mama, an old blues tune by Arthur Crudup. He played it fast, playful, raw, electric. Sam Phillips stopped everything. "What the hell was that?" he asked. They recorded it, released it. Within days, Memphis radio stations were playing it non-stop. Callers flooded in asking, "Who is that black man singing?" They were stunned to find out it was a white boy. Elvis Presley had arrived. Chapter 4, The Explosion of Elvis Mania. Over the next 2 years, Elvis's fame skyrocketed. He toured across the South, igniting a frenzy everywhere he went. Girls screamed. Boys copied his style. Parents and pastors panicked. Because Elvis didn't just sing, he moved. He shook, he wiggled, he gyrated his hips in ways polite society had never seen. On stage, he was alive, wild, and untamed. They called it the devil's music. They called him obscene. They tried to ban him from TV, censor his performances. But the youth? They didn't care. They had found their voice, their idol, their king. In 1956, Elvis signed with RCA Records. That same year, he released Heartbreak Hotel, his first national single. It went straight to #1. He appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show, and despite being filmed only from the waist up, his star only grew brighter. By the end of 1956, Elvis Presley was the most famous young man in America. Chapter 5, The Rise of the King. In just 12 months, Elvis had become a cultural earthquake. His debut album, Elvis Presley, was the first rock and roll album to reach #1 on the Billboard charts. He starred in movies, Love Me Tender, Jailhouse Rock, King Creole. Hollywood couldn't get enough of him. Neither could the world. He bought Graceland, his beloved mansion in Memphis. He surrounded himself with friends, family, and the Memphis Mafia, a tight-knit group that followed and protected him. But even as the world crowned him king, Elvis was still just a boy from Mississippi, raised by a mother who called him her everything. And in 1958, tragedy struck. His beloved mother, Gladys Presley, passed away. Elvis was shattered, lost, the most powerful man in music reduced to tears and silence. Then came another blow. He was drafted. Chapter 6, Army Life, the Pause of a Phenomenon. In March 1958, at the height of his fame, Elvis Presley was drafted into the United States Army. Fans cried. Reporters swarmed. But Elvis didn't protest. He saw it as his duty. He trained like everyone else, lived in barracks, served in Germany. It was there that he met a young 14-year-old girl named Priscilla Beaulieu, a girl who would later become his wife. Army life calmed him, gave him discipline, but it also marked a turning point, because when Elvis returned in 1960, the world had changed. From a dirt floor house in Tupelo to global superstardom in just a few years, Elvis Presley had become the face of a revolution. He didn't invent rock and roll, but he made it explode. But with fame comes a cost. And the road ahead? It wouldn't be smooth, because every king eventually faces war, with the world, and with himself. When Elvis came home from the Army in 1960, he wasn't just returning to America. He was stepping back into a world that had changed. But one thing hadn't changed. The king still ruled. Chapter 1, The Comeback Kid Returns from War. Elvis's return to civilian life was met with global fanfare. The world watched as he walked down from the airplane, looking more mature, more polished, but still carrying the same quiet charm. The cameras flashed. Reporters swarmed. The fans screamed. Elvis wasn't just a teen idol anymore, he was a man. And RCA Records had no intention of letting his momentum fade. In March 1960, just weeks after returning, Elvis hit the studio and recorded the smash hit Stuck on You. It soared to #1. He followed it with Are You Lonesome Tonight? And It's Now or Never songs that proved he was more than hip-shaking rockabilly. He could croon. He could command emotion. His voice had matured, deepened. The boy from Tupelo was gone. The king had evolved. Chapter 2, Hollywood Dreams, the Movie Years. But something shifted. Instead of focusing on music, Elvis and his manager, the ever-controlling Colonel Tom Parker, chased Hollywood. From 1960 to 1969, Elvis starred in over 20 films, lighthearted musicals, Beach comedies, romantic dramas, titles like Blue Hawaii, Viva Las Vegas, Fun in Acapulco. The movies were colorful, profitable, and mass-marketed, but they weren't critically acclaimed, and slowly his music suffered. The songs became secondary, soundtrack fillers, cheesy ballads, forgettable pop tunes. For nearly a decade, Elvis barely toured. He performed only in studios or film sets. The king of rock and roll had become a product, a brand. Fans started to ask, where was the real Elvis? Chapter 3, Life Behind the Gates of Graceland. During these years, Elvis retreated further into the private world of Graceland. He filled the mansion with family, friends, and the infamous Memphis Mafia, his inner circle of bodyguards, aides, and companions who did everything from organizing his schedule to making late-night peanut, butter, and banana sandwiches. And at the center of it all was Priscilla. Though they had met in Germany while she was still a teen, their romance deepened over the years. In 1967, they married in Las Vegas. A year later, Priscilla gave birth to their only child, Lisa Marie Presley. Fatherhood brought out a different side of Elvis. He was tender, emotional, and fiercely protective. But even as his family life seemed complete, something was unraveling inside him. Chapter 4, The 68 Comeback, The Return of the King. By 1968, Elvis was slipping into irrelevance. The Beatles had taken over the charts. The Rolling Stones were redefining rock. Bob Dylan, The Doors, Jimi Hendrix, music had changed. And Elvis? He was still singing in surf movies. The world was moving on. But then came the 68 Comeback Special, a televised performance. Originally titled Singer Presents Elvis. Dressed in black leather, standing in a small circle with a guitar in hand, Elvis walked onto that stage and reclaimed his throne. He sang raw. He laughed, he roared. He was electric, alive, dangerous again. The broadcast was a sensation. Critics hailed it as his rebirth. The king was back. Chapter 5. From Vegas with Power, the concert era begins. Flush with new confidence, Elvis did what no one expected. He returned to live performance. In July 1969, he opened a residency at the brand new International Hotel in Las Vegas. His shows were extravagant, backed by full orchestras, backup singers, and dazzling lighting. Dressed in his now iconic jumpsuits, cape and all, Elvis commanded the stage like a warrior king. Audiences were mesmerized. Night after night, the showroom was packed. Celebrities, politicians, fans from around the world came to see the king in his glory. From 1969 to 1977, Elvis performed over 100 concerts, many of them sold out. He toured across America, bringing his music back to the people. But behind the glamour and the glory, a shadow was growing. Chapter 6, Fame, Pills, and the Price of Pressure. The concert schedule was brutal. 2 shows a night, constant travel, no breaks, and always the pressure to perform. To keep up the energy, Elvis began relying on prescription drugs, stimulants to stay awake, sedatives to sleep, and painkillers to push through. His inner circle enabled it. Doctors wrote prescriptions on demand. What started as a way to cope became a cage. His mood shifted. He gained weight. His once chiseled face began to swell. His eyes dimmed, but still he performed. He gave everything to the stage, because that was the one place where he still felt like Elvis. He conquered the charts. He conquered Hollywood. He conquered Las Vegas. But slowly, the man behind the music was fading. Because even kings get tired of crowns, and sometimes the stage that lifts you up becomes the trap that brings you down. He gave the world his voice, his soul, his fire. But in the end, even the brightest stars burn out. This is the final chapter of Elvis Presley. Not just how he died, but how he became immortal. Chapter 1, A Life Spinning Out of Control. By the mid-1970s, Elvis was no longer the sleek heartthrob that had once made girls faint on live television. He was heavier, slower, sometimes incoherent on stage. But still, the crowds came. They came because they loved him. Because deep down he was still Elvis. But behind the scenes, things were falling apart. His marriage to Priscilla ended in 1973. The divorce left him devastated, though they remained friends and shared custody of Lisa Marie. He became increasingly reclusive, spending days locked in Graceland, surrounded by friends but alone in his thoughts. He devoured books on religion, mysticism, and self-help. He read about aliens, philosophy, and the afterlife. He was searching for something deeper than fame. Chapter 2. The music never stopped, but neither did the pain. Despite the turmoil, Elvis kept performing. He released new albums, including Elvis Today and From Elvis Presley Boulevard, Memphis, Tennessee, and continued to tour aggressively, but audiences began to notice. His voice, still powerful, sometimes faltered. He slurred words, forgot lyrics, sat down mid-song. There were even rumors that he had collapsed backstage. In 1973, during a concert in Hawaii, broadcast via satellite to over 1 billion people, worldwide, Elvis looked regal, dressed in white, commanding the world's attention. But it was a final high point. By 1976, the king was barely holding on. Chapter 3. The day the music died, August 16, 1977. August 16, 1977. Graceland, Memphis. Elvis Presley was found unresponsive in his bathroom by his fiancée, Ginger Alden. He was rushed to Baptist Memorial Hospital, but it was too late. The official cause, heart failure. He was only 42 years old. The world stood still. Fans wept in the streets. Radio stations stopped playing music. News anchors choked up on camera. Thousands flooded Memphis. They didn't just lose an icon. They lost a piece of themselves. Chapter 4, Aftermath. The world mourns a king. Elvis's funeral was held at Graceland. Over 80,000 people lined the streets to pay their respects. His body lay in an open casket surrounded by flowers, love, and disbelief. In the days that followed, his albums topped the charts again. Stores couldn't keep up with demand. Tributes poured in from around the globe. Everyone had a story, a memory, a moment. Because Elvis wasn't just a celebrity, he was the celebrity, the one who started it all. Chapter 5. The legend grows. Conspiracies, tributes, and legacy. Even in death, Elvis refused to fade. Rumors began swirling. Elvis is still alive. He faked his death. He lives in hiding. Tabloids ran wild. Sightings were reported everywhere from Kalamazoo to Argentina. Whether true or false, these stories only fueled the myth. Graceland became a shrine, visited by millions, a place where time stood still, where fans could still feel his presence. And over the decades, Elvis's legacy only grew. He sold over 500 million records worldwide. He's had 18 #1 hits in the US alone. He won 3 Grammy Awards and received the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously. His music has influenced generations, from the Beatles to Bruno Mars. Because Elvis didn't just open doors, he blew them off the hinges. Chapter 6, Immortal Through the Music. What makes Elvis immortal isn't just the records, the suits, or the swiveling hips. It's the way his voice made people feel, the way he bridged cultures, bringing black music to white audiences, mixing gospel with blues, country with soul. He was poor, southern, uncertain, and vulnerable. He was also bold, charismatic, and fiercely talented. He wasn't perfect. He had demons, flaws, addictions, but that made him human. And in his humanity, we found greatness. There will never be another Elvis Presley, not because others haven't tried, but because Elvis wasn't just a man. He was a movement, a moment in history that reshaped the world. He walked into Sun's studio with a trembling voice and left with the world in his hands. And though the music stopped on August 16, 1977, the echo of his voice still lingers in every stage light, in every love song, in every dream of becoming more than what you were born into. Because Elvis Presley didn't just live the American dream, he sang it. If this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe for more epic journeys through music history, and share this video with someone who still believes in the power of a song. Because legends don't die, they play forever.